Welcome to a special edition of the Built Different podcast, perhaps the Call Us Daddy edition, because I've got James, Jimmy, Basil, however you want to know him. I've got the owner of Supplement Cartel in the studio tonight. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, bud. Glad to be here with you on the Call Me Daddy podcast.
Yeah, call me
So,
daddy, call us daddy. You know,
you
we're
know,
we're big fans of all
call him daddy,
podcaster. Call
whatever.
him
Yeah,
daddy,
yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
We don't have the cartel couch, but these chairs are going to have to make do.
These are comfy. It's not the same, but it'll do.
Yeah,
It'll have to do.
we'll make it
Yeah,
work. So the
yeah.
customary question I love to kick things off with everybody is really, where were you born and where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Albany, New York. Um, April 23rd, 1985. Just turned 40 recently.
Do you
Went
know
to-
your exact time of birth?
I do not. So
That's a little disappointing.
I just know I came out, Alex. All right. I mean, Alex, sorry. I always do that. I just know I came out. That's all that matters. And I'm here with you.
You're here.
40 years later. So,
Yeah, rumor has it you actually emerged from the world into the world at Supplement Cartel.
I don't know if those rumors are true, but
Okay.
we'll have to do some research on
All
that
right,
one. Yeah,
someone can prove us wrong.
somebody could probably prove us. I was probably born on the couch, actually.
Yeah.
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 Labor occurred on the couch, most
Yeah.
likely. Yeah. So
So growing up in Albany for you, what was that really like?
it was good. Went to Albany High. That was a good experience. It's not what people I think it is. It has changed a lot since I've been there, but I enjoyed my time there and enjoyed Albany, and it's been here for 40 years.
Yeah.
So.
Did you play any sports when you were there?
Yep. Mostly football. I did wrestle and did do track and field for several years, and then I concentrated on football all the way up to my senior year. And I was like all section, all Big Ten, all state as a senior. So
What position did you play?
center nose. I was all state as a center. So yeah.
That's badass, man. I didn't know you played center.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was I graduated high school at 285 in high school. So,
Okay.
Yeah. So
What appealed to you about football?
the action. Yeah. The just you're a young kid. It's this that's what you're playing, and and then when you get out there and you start playing full contact, it's the adrenaline rush. It's it's a great sport. It's raw. Especially things change, things evolve, but the game just I always say it's being somebody that studies military history and things like that. It's like the best sport for young people because you have to work together with other people, but there's just a lot of it's high pace, it's aggressive, it's fast, and it's adrenaline rush for 7 seconds, and then you get a break, and then it's 7 seconds of adrenaline rush again. So, and there's just something about especially then I was young and you're aggressive, and it's just an outlet to really let that out on the world and stuff. So
Now, when you were playing football, was that when you really started getting into working out a lot?
yeah, I mean, I got started working out in the late 90s, like in middle school, just to start to get in shape. I was a heavy set kid, and then obviously I started playing football and sports, and that's what really drove me to get into serious weight training. And then I started powerlifting in the early 2000s and stuff, and that's what really got me into the weightlifting scene and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, I want to ask you a lot about the weightlifting scene, but let me go back to high school. So you do high school, you're playing football, you're center nose guard. What do you do after high school?
I went to college, kind of messed around with that. Went to Hudson Valley and Sage for PE and everything and stuff, and you know, and then just kind of figured things out from there. Worked, I eventually ended up working at Albany Strength Gym, full time and stuff like that, and started a personal training business while I was working there and doing those things and stuff. And then it's just kind of been left there in my early 30s, and then I started another business, and then before Supplement Cartel called the Anabolic Baker, and then COVID hit, and then Supplement Cartel was formed. That's
Yeah.
another long story.
Let me go back to Albany Strength. I want to unpack that a little bit more. So Albany Strength, you get into it kind of as you're figuring things out at Hudson Valley Community College, Sage.
You
were already at Albany Strength?
I was out at Albany Strength in 2002, so I was there as basically my sophomore year of high school. I started in some way working at Albany Strength already.
Okay, so
I was like filling in there, so I was already there, most of my high school career.
So is that when you were really getting into bodybuilding as you were getting into Albany Strength?
No,
stuff?
that's when I got into powerlifting.
Or powerlifting. That's what I meant.
That's when I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
into
yeah.
powerlifting. Powerlifting. That's when I got into powerlifting, and just because like you're a football player, you got to be bigger, stronger. That's what's faster, all those things. So, um, and at the time too, the strength community, the gym community, much different then. And the original, what I call old Albany Strength, not new Albany Strength, was much different. The scene was much different. That side of
What was it like? What was the scene like?
it was much more underground, much more like culty. Like it wasn't what it is now, where it's very mainstream and you have a large group of individuals, involved in fitness and stuff, from all ages and sex and cohorts. It was just a much different scene, especially the hardcore, like the powerlifting, the bodybuilding, the more strength focused scene. It was just much different. It was very small. Like I always make the joke, it was all ex jocks and ex convicts. So it was just which was really cool. It was an intense environment. Um, and I'm happy I got to be a part of that era. And it was before, smartphones and all that stuff. So you really just had a bunch of like really aggressive, testosterone driven individuals in a very small room, clanging and banging really hard and talking smack to each other and calling people out. And but it was tight at the same time. You learned a lot from each other and you
Yeah.
talked, and there was things that happened, but yeah, it was way different than it is now, like for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked out with you a lot, and that's something I feel like you've always had that vibe of you want to be able to talk with people, have that vibe where especially like other guys in the room can feed off each other and women too, but
Oh
just
yeah.
everybody just talking and fueling each other, talking smack, like, but all in the interest of like pushing everybody to get the most out of their workout.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, back then it was always like that too. And it's even now. That's what I'm still. I love that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of athletics too. Like
Yeah.
when you're playing football, you just get a bunch of people and they're just vibing off each other, and you're making each other work and things. Um, um, yeah, and it's just it was it the only difference in the environment side of it then was it definitely wasn't PC or anything. It was definitely very aggressive. Very guys would
Yeah.
talk a lot of smack to each other, and it got violent sometimes too, for
Yeah.
sure. And things
Yeah.
like that. So it was just, but that's what football locker rooms and teams are like. Guys
Yeah.
get into it. And like dudes are coming for jobs, and that's what it kind of was like then. So
Right. But
so-
you, as a player, football player, and then you were obviously doing your workouts. Can you talk to me about how that journey evolved for you from going just from working out at Albany Strength to like coaching and working and really helping people develop personal training plans?
Yeah, I mean, that happened basically once I got out of school. I did some warehouse jobs and stuff like that. And then John, the owner of Albany Strength, came to me and was like, "Hey, why don't you personal train? I can't give you a job. I can't give you a full-time job at the gym." But I was like, okay. So I started personal training. And then within a very short period of time, I eventually ended up pretty much working at the gym full time. And that's when I got into full-blown personal training. And yeah, it's like anything. You just build that up. You start, working with people, a lot of general population people. You work with some competitors, you work with some athletes, but it's a lot of just general population individuals.
So what was the timeline of Anabolic Baker? And
that was really, man,
and what really was that business?
So the funny thing with that one is, like I discussed on a recent podcast, was I'm a huge believer with businesses is branding, and I'm big. And so I was literally driving to Albany Strength one day, and the name Anabolic Baker just popped in my head. Like it just literally popped in my head.
When was this?
Oh Jesus, I was probably just turned 30, so this is probably 10 years ago. So I literally just came in my head. I got on the phone with my my attorney and said, "Hey, form this LLC real quick. Just get this name locked in." Boom. And originally, the whole concept with the Anabolic Baker was I was trying to do like whole food protein treats and stuff like that. And I had these protein donuts made from egg whites and oatmeal, and it was basically going to be like an on the go egg whites and oatmeal donut in a donut form. That pivoted very rapidly from that to like these other treats because I had some complications that I won't go into the full length of it. And then eventually we ended up doing, I started the pop-up events. Nobody was doing pop-up events. And I came up with that idea because I saw out in LA with Twitter, with food trucks, these food trucks were like, and this is like when Instagram was kind of, it was out, but it was like just didn't have the movement that it didn't. Twitter was definitely the main dog at the time. And you saw these food trucks in LA, and what they were doing was they'd be like, hey, we're on the corner of 4th and whatever today. Stop in and get whatever it is we're doing, tacos. So I was like, oh, we're going old school. I'm going to do pop-up bake sales and all these things. So I started doing them at gyms and powerlifting meets and stuff. And then I started doing real cookies, like, and I call them cheat day cookies. And they were started out 6-ounce cookies. We started the macro killer cookie. That was like a huge one that got me in the Times Union and things. And then we just kept going from there up to all the way up to like 1.5 pound cookies. So I kind of pivoted away from protein stuff, and we were just doing like these really big cookies. That's how that rolled. And then, yeah.
Yeah. So when did that business shut down?
COVID pretty much cost me that one. I had just formed the LLC though for Supplement Cartel a week before COVID lockdown. So
what happened in your mind of wanting to open Supplement Cartel at that time? Were you planning on doing them together?
Yeah. So the plan was I wasn't going to do what things kind of got reversed around. The original plan was like, I was actually going to make our own line of supplements with Supplement Cartel. And my plan was to take them along to all the events with me while I sold the cookies so I could sell like pre-workouts and stuff like that. And we were going to have our own line. And then eventually maybe we would have pivoted into, because that's really my area of, my specialty area is like the retail supplement side of things. I was eventually going to go into that. And then that all kind of got, once COVID hit, that kind of squashed all of that because I lost all the events, and I was traveling throughout the Northeast pretty much every weekend, or locally or throughout the Northeast every single weekend. I had a lot of big events lined up, a lot of things going on. And again, COVID kind of squashed that. So what ended up happening was I waited, a 1.5 years or so, 2, whatever. And I eventually stumbled onto the current location, the storefront that we're in right now, called about it, asked if my landlord would do the terms that I was looking for, and he said yep, and I signed the lease in 24 hours. And then we just kind of went from there, and it was kind of like.
So how has that journey been for you, like both opening that business and seeing it grow to what it is over the last few years?
It moved fast, really quickly. I mean, we just hit 3 years this year. Because it wasn't my first business, I was a little bit better prepared going into it, like psychologically and certain things. It was more just at the time, we were still dealing with some COVID restriction stuff. So it was like, where are we going to be by that? And then it was a lot of like craziness with the pricing. I thought I was going to run out of money. And then I had to I've like maxed out my personal credit card, like 25 grand on that thing, and did some other stuff. And, but it all came together, and, within took care of everything, and within 6 months we were off to the races. Everything was clear. We were good to go. And so it was a little nerve wracking from that standpoint. But and then you're just trying to grow. I understand in business, it just takes a long time. So the biggest thing is just surviving year one. I always tell people, like, you just got to survive year one, because 50% of businesses fail in year one. So my biggest goal is just surviving year one. We got through that. And now we're into year 3, which, that's where things should really, and I always tell people, like, even as long as I've been in this and doing it, I'm still on like the 1 yard line, have 99 yards to go to get the touchdown. I can get a safety at any time. Like it's not over, this is a long play. So, yeah, that's pretty much where that's at.
Well, when you think about to when you started it and where you are now, what at the time made you feel like, I want to open this, there's a need for this in a world where people often are used to just going to a GNC or a vitamin shop?
Oh, well, that's an easy one. Like, when I got into this 20 years ago, there was only like Albany Strength was a supplement store and a gym, and there was always something about that mom and pop retail environment with good prices and people and owners behind the counter that knew what they were talking about and really cared about their customer. So I knew there was a market for that, and I knew coming out of COVID that people were going to want to go back into things and have a retail experience. But it's up to the retailers to provide that service and that environment for them too. And, so yeah, I just knew, I've always felt that like brick and mortar is not dead. It's just, you have to provide a good service and a quality product to people at fair prices and things. And, if you do that, you'll be fine, so.
It's interesting that you opened Supplement Cartel. We didn't know each other at the time, but
Yeah.
when you opened it, it was right around when I was actually starting my own fitness journey.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about, you've now been at this for 3 years.
Mhm.
And for people who don't know you, who don't know the store, you're there pretty much every day. I mean, you actually just started taking a day off for yourself more recently.
Yeah, which will be going away in like a week or two. I'll go back to 7 days a week. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's one of those things that, yeah, there's no staff. It's just me. That's there's several reasons behind that. You and I've had this talk.
Yeah.
But I always view it, one, you guys expect to see me when you come in the door, because your relationships with me, it's not with potentially an employee or somebody else. I know your body. I know what supplements you use. I know these things. I know what you may be interested in, may not be interested in. And then also too, I just think it's a huge mistake with business owners at times. It's like things get moving and they kind of walk away, and you have to have your finger on the pulse of things all the time. Like, you got to know what's going on. Now, there's things that I delegate out, like for my internet, for like my website and certain things. I have people, and but like at the end of the day, a general leads from the front, not from the back. So like, I just feel what I have to be at the front line. Like, I have to see what's going on, especially nowadays, because with social media and things, especially in the supplement industry, gym industry too, everything, things are trending and moving so rapidly that you have to be in there and like see what's going on, because people are coming in and be like, hey, do you have this? And I'll be like, no, oh no, or this, or they'll just come in and mention something. I'm like, yo, is that trending? And they're like, yeah. And like, boom, all right, I got to get on this now. And it's just moving that fast. So you have to be on top of it, and it's just good to have those relationships. So
There's so many cool parallels with your business journey to any fitness journey. And I want to ask you, on the hard days where you don't have a lot of people coming in the door, where you're worried about inventory or all the actual concerns you deal with day in and day out as a business owner, what keeps you motivated to keep pushing along with growing this business?
So I learned this with my first business is when you're talking about the good and bad days, so you have to learn to control your emotions really, really well. So I call it being in the middle. You constantly have to get to the middle on things with your emotions. Like, so the days that are really good, and this is going to sound kind of messed up, you really can't enjoy the good day. You have to kind of get right to the middle. And the days that are really bad, you can't let them get to you. You got to get right back to the middle. Like, so I kind of always have to stay neutral. Because you know that there's going to be really good days, and you know there's going to be really bad days, and you just can't take them personal, and you just got to be in the fight every day. And that's all that matters. So it's just understanding that, like, as long as you're doing the right things, like as long as I'm maintaining my overhead right, and I'm taking care of you guys and providing good service, that's all I can really do. I can't do anything more than that. So that's just, you can only do so much, and that's what it is. I already know if I'm providing good service, good prices, and maintaining my overhead right, I should survive long term.
Yeah.
And have a finger on things, And then, like I said, when it comes to the psychological side of it for myself, it's just a long play. It's like fitness. It's all a long play. And again, it's just keeping your emotions in check. That's, which again, I'm a human being. We all have good days and we all have bad days. I've just learned that, like, when those days, it's like your body with training. You're beat up. You're like, okay, I know I'm beat up right now. I'm probably not my strongest. I better kind of take a lighter day, just kind of move some blood around, get in and out. Okay. And then the days that are like, just, but you got something done. You still got to work out. And it's the days you're really good. Don't let that get to your head too. Like, yeah, you can go in there and crank real hard, but realize don't do anything stupid where you get hurt. But, you got another good work. You got to work out it, and now it's on to the next one. It's like, you can't let the days get to you. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that come along, in your journey. It's like my father passed away just like your father passed away. It's a great learning curve. I learned more about that. That was a huge thing for me, business and life wise, right there. just like I'm sure it was for you. And
Still
it
is.
still is. It's
Yeah.
still very fresh. It's only been like a little over a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're in a really, you're going to find a lot more out about yourself as time goes along. You know, I did, it was a huge, and you know, I just turned 40 last week, and there's things about myself with business that I think about my father, because he had a business too. And that's held me back, because I was like, man, I don't want to do that. My dad made that mistake, or this or that. And it's like, I'm not my dad. You have to eventually kind of be like, you're on your own life and your own journey, and like you just got to let that go. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have to, you're here, you know? And so, you know, business, again, back to it, business, just get neutral, stay neutral all the time. So it's like, understand. And then I understand there's going to be a level of just crap that hits every day, and there's going to be a level of good that comes in. Like, just got to get to the middle. Yeah.
I think of all the ways that my dad has shaped me, and
Yeah.
the things that I know I love that he gave me, and also to your point, some of the mistakes he made that I am wanting to, not make in my own life. But for you, you mentioned your father
Mhm.
with your own business. What kind of an impact did learning from your dad have on you as a business owner, and who else around you do you kind of look to as your own personal group of uh, coaches, influencers for yourself of how you want to be as a business owner?
So, you know, there was a lot of things my father did that was right, and there was a lot of things my dad did that was wrong. And, you know, again, you always harp on the wrong things, not the right things.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's looking, being like, I'm not my dad, this, that. You kind of have to, like, you know, realize that his life was his life, my life is my life. But I learned a lot from him on probably more of what not to do, like on certain things, but definitely some things on what to do. And he did mold me and do some things. But I always say, you know, my old boss, John, who's one of the, you know, owners and starter of Albany Strength, I was with him for almost 17 years of my life. So he was like a second father to me. He taught me a lot, strength, strength training wise, business wise. Um, when I got out on my own, like, and when you're young and you're like, you're motivated, especially in like business or work or whatever, you're like, man, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And you're like, man, that doesn't make any sense. And then you get on your own and business wise, and you're like, oh, that's why he was doing that. Like, I see now. Okay. But the good news is you have that. I'm one of those types that keeps a mental checklist. So I know, I'm like, okay, cool. That's why he did that. Okay. Now I know, okay, this is what I got to do. Cause I already know, cause I already saw this. I've dealt with this bear in a way before, but now I'm dealing with it on my own. Now I know what to do. And there's things that like he taught me that I've carried into Supplement Cartel that I know work. And there's things that I thought were weaknesses of his. There were strengths that he did that were awesome that I learned. That, like I said, I carry in a Supplement Cartel, and there's weaknesses of his or things that I thought when I look at it, I'm like, now it's like it. There's no point in fixating on that, you know. Like, like let that go, and like, you know, that I kind of do the opposite business wise a little bit. Um, so yeah, I mean, those two guys, especially, you know, John, especially. Yeah, that's why when I left there, it was a big deal for me. You know, it was,
Yeah.
yeah, he taught me a lot. Even like I said, a lot of the stuff, even right now, when you're talking fitness and everything, there's things that conversations that I have with him at 15, 16, 17, 18 years old that are literally, I'm seeing come to fruition right now at 40. I've seen come to fruition in the last 10 years, you know? Um, so like I always give the example, it's like, I remember being 16 down at the old place, and we were doing a Sunday squat workout. A bunch of us used to get around Sunday mornings and do these really crazy squat and deadlift workouts. And I remember going to him, I was like, John, when am I going to be at my peak? And he's like, oh, not until at least your 30s. I'm like, what do you mean, man? I'm young, I'm full of testosterone, ready to kick some ass. He's like, yeah, but you don't know the tricks of your body yet. You don't know yourself. And like, literally when I turned 30, Alec, it all started clicking. In the last 10 years, it's all, and now I'm like, okay, because I was around those guys, because the industry also then was a lot older. It wasn't as young as it is now. So I was around guys that were all 20, 30 years older than me, even at times. And so I know what guys are capable of doing in their 40s and 50s and even 60s, strength, physique wise, and this and that. I'm like, okay, I see where things are right now. At 40, I'm like, I got 3 to 5 more years of really like where it's going to get to the sweet spot. And then I kind of know what I got to do from there. Um, as long as I don't get hurt in certain things and just, we're good to go. This is like the prime time right now. So, but that was a conversation that happened literally, you know, over 20 years ago. And not now it like reflects back right now. So
Yeah, I know for me with my dad, I just know that he's my biggest cheerleader
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
having fun, and everything for me is about having fun. If I don't quite know what to do, find a way to have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it's like having a conversation with you right now, whether it's finding a way to dance or whatever it might be, cuz like life gets really serious, and I think sometimes we all forget that life needs to be fun at the end of the day. It's not always fun, so when you can actually find those moments, you got to lean into them hard.
Yeah, I think you and I've had this kind of conversation many times when we talk politics and certain
Yeah.
things like that. It's just, you know, life is too short. You got to enjoy the ride.
Life is really short. I mean, be responsible. Dude. Like
Oh,
YOLO,
yeah.
YOLO is ridiculous, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like have a little bit of urgency to going after what your dreams are.
Yeah, I mean, well, that requires risk in certain things and
Sure.
also just putting the foot forward,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, you know, it's not comfortable, this isn't like a David Goggins kind of like you got to get like it isn't comfortable. It's scary. It requires that's like that in business, investing, relationships. That stuff's scary. You're vulnerable. You're letting down your armor. We all want to keep our armor up at all times. It's like I said, like business wise, psychologically, I'm in a way better spot to make those moves now from like kind of doing it on my own for the last being on my own for the last several years now. But there's things, and then training wise, it's like there's things that I don't really because I've been there and seen it, and then there's our at investing, same thing. Like I just kind of know, okay, I've seen this before, boom, 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 and it's like it's not so scary. Okay, just put the foot forward. You got nothing to lose as long as you're not getting crazy YOLO-y. It's the same thing with love and relationships. That you're incredibly actually that's probably the most vulnerable you're ever going to be is letting your guard down with somebody else. You know,
100%.
so that's business is the same way, and but that's what makes life worth living is
Yeah.
the risk. It's like is like that adrenaline rush and that thrill and that like that you know that's the cool thing with business, man. Is just it's a child. You're watching it grow and you're taking some risk and you're gambling.
So let's talk about some moves that you've made. You dropped a big announcement a few weeks ago that you're bringing a huge fitness expo to Albany
Yep.
next year. Can you talk to me a little bit about the evolution of that and what's making you so fired up to bring that to Albany?
So so my business partner it's called the Empire State Strength and Fitness Expo. And my business partner Jan and I actually on that business partner Jan and I on that project for several years we've been talking about it. That it's something he's the New York State chair for the USAPL and he's one of their corporate national office employees and stuff.
USPL powerlifting?
USAPL powerlifting. Yep. So he goes throughout the country hosting big competitions and things. And him and I for years, this is even when I had the anabolic baker, this is way before Supplement Cartel. Him and I had been talking, the capital region would be the perfect like location for some kind of big event and expo, and we'd been joking and talking about it for a long time. And we just finally recently we were in the store one day. He was in the store getting some stuff like a couple months ago, and he was like, I was like, man, it'd be nice to kind of like do this big comp or this big expo. I wish we could like.
So let me ask you there. There's a lot of different ideas around this area
Yeah.
about what a fitness festival is or an expo is, but you have a very particular idea of what this event is. So can you talk to me a little bit about what your real vision is for this event?
So we're looking. Our real vision is to basically make it the Arnold Classic outside of Columbus, Ohio, in the Northeast. Like we're trying to make it that level of event where you have multiple competitions going on, multiple vendors. That's really more of what we're trying to do. So it's just a way to highlight athletes and competition and different supplement companies and things like that within the industry. That's really our main goal. So, powerlifting, strongman, CrossFit, um, esports, um, we're already looking into 2027 even. We'd like to, bring on a bodybuilding show, full blown bodybuilding show into the expo. And like we're we're looking at several other avenues already, jujitsu, all these things. So it's really just a way to kind of bring multiple athletes together to compete in a large environment, with a lot of eyes on them, and have supplement companies there and brands and things like that. Basically, what the Arnold's like. You've never been to the Arnold, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, the Arnold is basically literally just that. It's a lot of supplement companies and brands in the industry, and there's a lot of competition going on, and there's just a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah, I appreciate you laying out the distinction because I get really frustrated with a lot of the capital region culture in my mind that to
Mm.
me has this very scarcity mindset mentality about everybody protecting their own little fiefdoms, being afraid to collaborate with each other, and in my mind, not recognizing the opportunity that exists to promote what is really a growing industry in the capital region and the unique density of all this incredible fitness community that exists here. And I joke with you that you're like the Swiss banker, you're the Austria of a lot of this being who you are and with Supplement Cartel. So what's your take on the real capital region fitness culture?
It's like you're saying, there can be a lot of clicks and cultiness and things like that. And the thing about the capital region fitness culture is just how huge it is. Like yourself, I've traveled throughout the country and things, and probably outside of Texas, this is one of the bigger fitness cultures in the country, in my opinion. Uh, it's amazing how many gyms and things like that this area supports for such a small amount of people, realistically, per
It's
capita.
unbelievable. I
Yeah.
mean, my fitness journey, like from a content standpoint, really started as, and I've used the term a Yelp gym guy,
Yeah.
and that's changed a lot since my dad passed away. And I really wanted to lock in also on what I've come to enjoy the most.
Yeah. Hmm.
But why do you think that mentality exists so much within fitness? Because it seems like there keeps being more and more evidence, at least to me, that the market is growing, which should be encouraging for everybody.
But that's just the fitness. You're dealing with a lot of personalities and a lot of egos. So that's really probably the root of it all.
Yeah.
You're just dealing with that. Um, yeah, you're just dealing with a lot of personalities and a lot of egos.
Yeah.
It's really, and at the end of the day, we can be it's dollars and capitalism, and just people are they're scared to lose maybe a member or this or that to somebody else for dollars. It's like and that's pretty much. And then I think there are, because Albany is such a small city in a way. Like it really is like a big high school, Albany, and you get these cliques, and it's just cliques within the high school. It's just like, hey, we're here, and like we're this way, and that you kind of get these individual little. But there are a lot of. I think it depends on the gym too, and certain things too. Like I know Matt at ABC works for a lot of other gyms and does things with people and collabs up. I know the CrossFit community is actually pretty. I've been around a lot of those guys. They're all pretty tight knit together. Like, there's
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
had Richard Mack on an
Yeah.
episode and we had a really great conversation. And like I work out with him, actually not even at CrossFit Schenectady, which he owns. We met working out together at Her Strength Studio
Hmm.
because Nora does these really cool 518 Kettlebell Club meetups that's a free open workout the first Sunday of the month.
Yeah.
And I just wish more stuff like that was really happening because ultimately I think people really are desperately craving a lifestyle where they can do all these things. Today,
Hmm.
I was able to check out Hot Works Delmar and shout out to Kelsey there. She, like me, goes to Metabolic in
Yeah.
6 days a week and she works there. And it's the greatest compliment for her in the same way I like hot yoga. But you can combine a lot of things. And I just think the fitness community keeps holding itself back by being afraid to embrace that people are craving this. And I guess my frustration, and maybe I'll ask you a more specific question. What do you think we can actually do to promote more of that type of lifestyle? Or is it just a lost cause?
I mean, nothing's ever a lost cause. I mean, I try to stay optimistic on things. I think, again, you're dealing with a lot of personalities. You're dealing with a lot of, and then some people too, man. Like right now, I always say this about fitness. Like you're motivated, it's your passion and things like that. Like a lot, like there are people out there and it's on your mind a lot. A lot of people, most people in gyms and stuff like that, they really, it's not, it's not, they're just trying to go about their day, get their workout in and move forward. That's it. It's not their main focus. You know what I'm saying? It's not their obsession. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even like myself, as I get older, like my workout is very important to me in the day. Um, but it's not like all day long I'm thinking about it or I'm harping on it or like, it's just become a part of my routine. And I
Yeah.
think it just becomes one of those things where it's your outlet right now. Like it was like, listen, man, when I played football and I powerlifted and did whatever I was doing, jujitsu, I was hyper focused on those things. Like I was obsessed about it. All right. And like that was my thing. Like it was it. All right. And like that was me though. That wasn't my mother. That wasn't my brother. That wasn't my father. Okay. So it's like you have to understand that people just, I view it like this: as long as they're doing something and they're being active and they're trying to live some relatively healthy lifestyle, everything's good. All right.
Oh, I agree with you. I
And
guess where I'm coming from, just to push back a little bit,
yeah, yeah.
is to me, more people would actually choose to embrace any type of fitness journey
Mhm.
and decide ultimately to be a member somewhere
Yeah.
if they knew more about all the various options that exist. And maybe somebody starts going somewhere more casually
Yeah.
and they fall in love with their journey exactly the way I did. I get it that I'm way more obsessive than the average person
Well,
with it.
let me ask you this right now too. How many people have you seen go gym to gym to gym in throughout time too?
There's a lot that
There's a
do
lot.
that.
So yeah,
There's a
so
lot.
that information gets out there and people do go to different gyms and they try a lot of things out. Actually, I could say this right now, being somebody that's been around it for as long as I have, I'd say there's probably, now that we're having this conversation, I'm reflecting back on it, there's probably more people are more open and open to people going to different gyms and doing things than they were 20 years ago.
100%. But here's where I guess I get frustrated. A lot of people I talk to or ask me questions about my own journey,
Yeah.
they have a mindset, and I love them. And I respectfully push back against this, where to me, they want to casually dip their feet in the water of fitness. They want to try this or try this or try this. And then they get frustrated when they don't really get any real results. And I get that too when you're starting to figure that out at first.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. But eventually, you got to find a real program. And to me, at least, if you want real results, if you want to be serious about it,
Yeah.
you have to find a gym environment, whether it's a place like a metabolic, a group fitness place, or a personal trainer, where you can be training and having real programming as opposed to just working out, picking up some weights, and seeing what happens.
Yeah, but also that it's like anything in life, it requires a lot of time and a lot of patience, and you got to fail a lot of times.
True.
You got to fail a lot. And it's also one of those things too where the one thing about nowadays within the industry that is much different than when I got into it, there's now you have an abundance of information. You have an abundance of gyms. You have an abundance of things going on. Back in the day, that wasn't the case. So the only way I got information about training and working out was I had to go into a gym and find the biggest guys in there and be like, hey, what are you doing? And then I had to take whatever they were saying and then try it on my own and experiment around. And I think that's where you really learn. And then I had to go find the information and try things. And there's a lot of trial and error. And it just takes a really long time to fine tune and figure things out. You got to go through a lot. And at the end of the day, life kicks in. People don't have that time. It's a big investment. Like my life, realistically, outside of owning a business, hasn't really changed that much since I got into this. Like, I've never been married. I haven't had kids. You could almost say I'm pretty selfish in a way if you kind of think about it, even though I haven't wanted to. It's just I've stayed in kind of the normal lane. And it's not that I was doing it because I was like want to stay on this crazy fitness journey. It's just like I've been able to kind of go through and try a lot of things and do different things. And that takes time. And so it all just takes time, man. And I just don't
100%.
think people have that investment.
100%. And I,
Oh, well,
no, you go. Go, yeah.
So actually, I'll make that mention to you. Okay, so let's talk investing. Let's look at the investing world. All right. How many people really look at a stock or a company and say, I'm holding this for 20 years?
It takes real discipline to do that. And I totally get that. Where I have a healthy medium in my mind is I want to take the obsessive passion that I have developed for my own fitness and wellness
Yeah.
and meet people where they are, but also encourage them to be, hey, maybe you want to respectfully reevaluate your life priorities a little bit. For example, people always ask me, well, how much is a gym membership or how much is this?
Yeah.
But it's fundamentally based on thinking, how little do I have to spend on my fitness versus thinking of it as a value add, as an investment.
Yeah, but that's on the individual.
It is.
It's on the individual.
But at the same time, though, I think I feel I have a responsibility, given my journey and how I have been able to develop any level of a platform, to at least attempt to talk with people about the possibilities that open up for you in your life when you at least make it somewhat more of a priority. I'm not saying to anybody like you got to do exactly what I'm doing, but for example, I always talked with Best Fitness when I worked with them. The difference between somebody going to a Planet Fitness, and no offense to Planet Fitness, but a lot of people just kind of mindlessly spend 20, 30 bucks going there, and no slight against it. It was great for me when I first started.
Yeah.
But when I talked with Eric and Taylor and Rachel, the difference between spending 25, 30 bucks there versus like 40 and everything they offer, is night and day. But like that seems to be such a struggle for people. So it's really like from a general population standpoint, getting people to think, okay, I can spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 bucks more per month on my own fitness, and it's worth it rather than going out to dinner every time I want to go out or whatever it is.
I mean, theoretically, I could sit here and say that they really don't have to spend anything on a gym membership.
True. You don't have to.
They could just invest in nutrition, understanding their food choices, and go for walks and understand that variable of things. So it's, you know what I'm saying? That it doesn't mean, that fitness doesn't mean that you have to be involved in a gym or you have to do this. It's
True.
Like, it's like you could very easily do this from, it's like I always used to tell clients, I'd be like, okay, you didn't get a workout in today. That's fine. You got to, go walk for 20 minutes. Go walk around for 20 minutes. Get a 20-minute walk in.
Well, the only way I'd push back against that a little bit is like I'm struggling with this. I've had a major faith journey my whole life. And the idea for me, which I have to hold myself accountable in, I am not going to grow spiritually, not being in a faith community the same way that I'm convinced that a lot of people, not to your point, there are some people who do not need to be in a group fitness environment to succeed. But for a lot of people, it's the best form of accountability. And
100%.
community.
Yeah.
And so, at least from my perspective, I think a lot more people would at least be able to stay motivated to some degree if they had more accountability, because discipline isn't developed overnight.
No.
Motivation's basic, but discipline is that ultimate engine that's going to fuel you to get you where do you want to go.
Oh, 100%. Listen, man, like I've always, also too, I look at it like this. I always wanted the ball. I always want the ball. All right. So I want it to be on me. I don't want it to be on anybody else. All right. And I enjoy training in the group environments. Those are cool. All right. But it's even in the group environments, I still try to there's a part of me that I like that. All right. That's why I liked when I was a captain in football. I wanted it where things were crazy and chaotic and people had to turn to me when stuff was hitting the fan, and I was either going to be right or I was going to be really wrong. All right. And I didn't bother me. Didn't phase me. it's the same thing with when it comes to training and certain aspects of life. I just like it that way. And that's not for everybody. Some people, it's like that. And you're right. It requires a lot. I have to be very disciplined and I have to do certain things. And it requires a lot of like self-evaluation and stuff constantly. Like I'm always evaluating myself. All right. And that's training, life, business, relationships. Like there are things that I am like constant. That's why I don't sleep, Alec. I don't think I don't sleep. I'm constantly evaluating myself in the world constantly. All right. I'm having to figure out where things are going, potentially going. And then I also have to understand that, like, at the end of the day, I can sit here and try to evaluate it. I also have no control over any of it. So I have to then also learn to like release it all to the world too at the same time.
Oh, I totally get that.
You
Like
know,
within
and
politics, like you have to learn to look around the corner. And I've brought that mindset to content, to where I think
Yeah.
the fitness industry, wellness industry is going. And you're going to look delusional at times, but you have to just, it's like the line from Margin Call,
Yeah.
where Jeremy Irons is, at the end of the day, he makes the call to sell all the stock,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, he'd rather be first. It's a lot easier to try to be first at something.
yeah, I mean, you know, and that's so it's like with fitness and that journey, it's like you eventually, you know, it once people, I do think people, yeah, they get into a group environment, and then eventually they are going to have to take a little bit of personal accountability and learn some things. It all requires that. It's like, you know, like well, you know, you and I make movie references all the time. One of my favorite movies growing up and still is Top Gun, the original. All right, and there's a scene, I don't know if you've
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
seen it. Okay, the end, like when Goose dies and Maverick's question himself.
Spoiler alert.
Jeez, shocker. Yeah. And he goes to meet with Viper at his house, and they're walking around the beach, and he tells him about his dad, and he's like, "Well, what are my options?" Maverick asks Viper, and Viper says, "Well, you got two options here. You can quit. Nobody will say anything bad about you. That crash would have shook me up. I would have, you know, boom. Or you can graduate with your Top Gun class and, you know, go about and that's it." He's like, and then he says, you know, what we do is, you know, we got to push it constantly. You know, we got to be on the edge. We got to evaluate and keep pushing fast and hard. And that, you know, that sticks in my head. Like, you know, it's like life's like that, man. You got to evaluate things, come to some realizations, and keep pushing. Like you gotta ride that razor's edge. And that's life. That's just how it is, man. And it's like, you know, in that scene, that's one of the, you know, there's a couple other big quotes in my life, but that one definitely, like, I reflect on it. It's like in business, man. It's like you can't get down. You got to assess and evaluate, and you got to keep pushing, because, you know, it's risky. That's what makes it good, though. You know, and it's like you got to keep pushing the edge.
All right, so being a fitness guy,
Yeah.
we're both single guys.
All right.
You're using the pilot analogy, and
Okay.
Viper, I think, was Tom Skerritt. Pretty sure.
Yeah, Tom Skerritt was Viper.
What a cool actor!
Yeah, he's great. Yeah,
great mustache. Them, just like mint masculinity, like cool guy.
perfect 70s 80s guy.
Yeah,
right there.
Killed it. Shout out to Tom Skerritt. But look, we're both single guys. We're both into fitness. We're talking about being pilots. So what's the ideal co-pilot look like for you, given your lifestyle and your interests in being a business owner right now?
You mean woman-wise? Or?
Yes, woman-wise. Or how do you even approach it? Because you got so much going on.
I've learned that I think the problem with, we get this idea that there's like a checklist, all right, of things that we're looking for, all right. And I've come to there's no checklist, okay. There's no, like, if the right person comes along, they come along, all right. And they're not going to be perfect. And there's going to be parts of them that are going to be really good, and there's going to be parts of them that are going to be really bad. And if we're both into each other and it vibes and things go, and we're willing to accept those goods and flaws of each other, that's all I can ask for. And that just hasn't come along. I've been very focused on business. I've been very focused. There's, and you know, it's, again, you and I, one of my and now in the last couple of years, and even in the last probably year plus, I've had to reflect on this quote even. So my old boss, John, used to say about business, he would be like, you got to be like the Minutemen. You got to be like ready at all times to go. Like in the drop of a hat, you got to go. You got to go fight that war. All right. You can't have anything holding you down. You just got to go. And it's kind of like De Niro in the movie Heat when he talks about, I want nothing in my life I can't walk away from in 30 seconds or less if I feel the heat around the corner. That's how I've kind of applied business and certain things like that. Like I've kept this side in, like in the past where it's like, I got to go. Like I can't have anything like that's going to be the top priority no matter what. And it's been good and bad to me. And it's something that like I'm reflecting on now that I'm like, was it really the business or was it myself too? Was it my, well, there's other things to that. You know what I'm saying? So I can tell you want to.
I'm obsessed with Heat.
It's
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. And of course, I just think of the diner scene.
Yeah.
The halfway scene. It's just the epic.
Him and Pacino. That's one of the best cross scenes ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like, oh my gosh. Tom Hiddleston probably does the best impression of that scene I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like Graham Norton. I mean, I'll do my best right now. But it's just, again, like for those of you who've never seen Heat, please see this. I actually think it's the 30-year anniversary of the movie.
Yeah, it's got to be coming up. I think 96 or 95.
Yeah, I think it came out in 95. If go IMDb it. But so De Niro and Pacino are. So De Niro is the villain or the good guy, depending on how you look at the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the ringleader of a group of bank robbers, and Pacino is the just like coked up, like jaded LA cop on the hunt for him. And they meet twice in the movie. Halfway in the movie is the first scene where they link up at a diner. And I just love the line where Pacino just goes, "So you never wanted a regular type life?"
Oh, yeah.
And De Niro responds, "The fuck is that? Barbecues and ball games?" And Pacino just has a breath and he just goes, "Yeah."
Yeah, then he says, "Is that your life?"
Yeah.
He's like, "No." And they're both
my life's a train wreck.
Yeah, because I'm chasing guys like you around.
Yeah.
So
but like, so in your mind, I guess ask kind of more seriously, like you never wanted a regular type life. You never were tempted to kind of abandon.
Oh, we all are. So this is what I'm getting to. That is myself evaluating myself and being like, I use the excuse of business and things. And then there's probably been other aspects of myself. It's a vulnerability thing. It's having to let somebody in too at the same time, and like other things.
I think that can scare certain people from a dating perspective.
It's
when somebody's entrepreneurial and taking some risks and doing something that's a little outside the norm, there's some people who are going to be a little scared by that.
Well, the only thing about myself though, too, yes, you're
from a future value projection.
Yeah,
standpoint.
you're and you do have to kind of be like, at the end of the day, like I always hear people talk about work-life balance. When you're doing extreme things, there is no balance. All right. That's why it's extreme. All right. That's why it's called extreme. Right. It's like, and it requires obsession, it's just and extreme things to be done. And that's what people just don't understand. Like it requires, though, you have to do those things to get something moving.
There's a lot of people that are very scared of being obsessed or relentless about anything. And I will never fully understand why, because I always say to them, imagine if you decided to become just obsessed about whatever your goal is, even just for a certain amount of time, 3 months, 6 months, a year, see what happens.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's, so it's one of those things where, people, they just don't get that about it. All right. Which is fine. And I've learned, and the one thing I have learned is you have to, in business and life, you have to know when to like drop the throttle, like hit the hammer and go 101 miles an hour, but then you also have to know when to pull off. All right. And it's a constant, pull and push and all these things. And then when it comes to like relationships, you can almost say that like the thing with myself is I take that serious. Like I would anything. And not in the sense that like that I'm like that person has to be around me all the time or this or that. I just take I think it's one of those things in the modern world that we always forget. And I think about my grandparents and think like and even past relationships in mankind, like that's a serious thing to give yourself to somebody.
Huge. And a
Yeah.
lot of my married guy friends, I love them
Yeah.
and they're great friends of mine. But I think both men and women, if they're being really honest with themselves a lot, often should on themselves. And what I mean by that
Oh
is
yeah.
they make these huge life decisions, whether it's getting married, taking a job, having
Having kids.
kids,
Yeah.
because they just think they should do it
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
It's because it's society, it's social pressures, it's norms, and they really the thing what ends up happening is they don't really know themselves. So they get into those situations and they get several years down the road and they really never learn themselves. And especially in your I can tell you this right now, you're 30 to 40 by far like you think your teens and your 20s you learn about yourself? No. 30 to 40 is when you really learn yourself. I learned so much about myself in the last 10 years. It's not even funny.
Oh, it's crazy. Like for me, I started my fitness journey in my Jesus year, was
Yeah.
33.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a completely different human in many respects than when I started. And who knows where I'll be like by the time I'm 40.
Give it, like I said, in the last couple of years, and like, so you're at that stage where I had things that, like, my dad died, things like that, and like all those things. We're both, and then in the last couple of years, there's things, man, I'm talking, even in the last year and a half to two, all right, the amount of stuff that I'm like, okay, boom, now I see it. All right. And fortunately, again, that was one of the things of having guys around me that were much older than me that were going through these things. I already kind of knew how to prepare. And again, it's love to me. Like when you're talking relationships too, man, it's just, it's a serious thing. It's like, you know, I view it, it's almost like Caesar and Cleopatra type love. Like I will go to war for that person. Like I will literally bleed out everything in my soul for that person. And there just hasn't been that person, you know, to you know, that because it's serious. It's like my grandfather. My grandmother died. That was over for him. It was
Yeah.
over. It was done. And that was a man that like like this is my mother's father. Like when he was younger, he had like every woman the town wanted him, and he fell deeply in love with my grandmother. He could have had any other woman. He took my grandmother and went off, fought a world war, came home, like raised two kids, did everything. Everybody thought, because he was the type of guy, and I see it in myself at times too. There's a lot of things. This is where life and even things come about. It's like I see aspects of like my brother's like this too. Like we're like, okay, we get something done, and the reason why I'm also like this, okay, what's next? Let's go. That that's it's a problem of mine where I really can't enjoy things because I get something done, and I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
It,
Well, in a healthy way for me, I've learned to really love what I'm doing.
yeah.
And sometimes that may come off as narcissistic or like
Yeah.
really self-absorbed.
I didn't mean to say yes that you're narcissistic, but I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
No, I get it. And like I've learned like in part, like look, you're gonna have haters. Any politician knows that. Even the greatest politician in the world is gonna have at least 40 to 45% of their constituents who hate their guts.
Oh yeah.
You know? So it's like you gotta know yourself, you gotta love yourself. You have to be I mean, don't be an asshole intentionally, obviously, but
Yeah.
like seek to be a good person, a good human. My thing with relationships is I do also take them very seriously. My parents are married for 40 years.
Yeah.
And when I was heavier, again, I built that as an idol. Like having that hot smoke show as an idol by my side. And I've had to learn to really love myself as part of it. And a lot of it also is proportional energy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to match someone who's equally committed to themselves, first and foremost. Like, I want to be with somebody who's got their own thing going on. And I mean, when I had Sonia on, we were, you know, talking about two smoke shows where when there's smoke, there's fire.
Mm-hmm.
There's real truth to that. So fire needs oxygen though, too.
Yeah.
And you got to have somebody who you can breathe with, who you can feel like is meeting you at your level and in a healthy way pushing you to be better.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's also too where it's like there's a lot of aspects of myself that makes, those things challenging at times though too. It's just like as much as you see me interact and be around a lot of people, I also like I'm very like people that know me know that I'm out socializing, talking to
Yeah.
everybody, doing that. I'm also when I go home, man, I want to be left alone from the world. Like I'm literally
Yeah.
like a Wolverine in the shadows. Like it's so that, personality wise can make things challenging, and then also as I get older and I evaluate, like I look at my parents, okay, I look at my grandparents and what they had, and then I look at my parents and why they separated when I was 6 and everything like that. It's like, you and I, we could sit here and be like, this is what I want in somebody, I want this, I want that. And it's like, the reason why my parents didn't work out is, and I have to look at that like inside of myself, is because there was a 20-year age difference between my mom and my dad. My dad was much older, my mom was much younger, and I mean, good for him. But you, she was her own person, and my dad tried to control things and things. When I look back on, he was a good man, but and it's like, I think that's the thing too, is like understanding it's just all got to come together. Right?
It all has to come together.
It all is just because it's like that person is that's their own person. They're on their own path and journey, and I can't. It's like we both have to come together and understand things, and it's like it's just got to be the right. Like I don't want to say the right fit. It's just you'll know it. It's almost like animalistic.
Yeah, I don't
Like
have the same urgency because I really don't know in my heart if I need to be a parent. I don't even know if I need to be married because I take those things again very seriously, and I do not want to shit on myself in any way with those big things in life. And I think a lot of people need to dial down the pressure. Like one of the things I've had in my mind this year is just be chill about it, trust in the right timing.
mm,
If you have a level of loneliness or anxiety about it, one of the things I do is I just pray.
mm.
If I'm meant to be married, I pray for her.
Yeah, but like I mean, that's where you're at. This is where like our half a decade in life separation is kind of like, too. It's like I even had time to assess this. Like, would I be a good father to my own kids if I had kids? Yes. And you could do anything in life. I'm at the stage of my life where like, do I really want an infant in my life? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I really like, I kind of like being able to sleep. I kind of like the little bit that I do get. Okay. Like, not that I sleep much, that, but like, and there's certain things that I'm like, you know what, at this stage of my life, I probably want to be with somebody that's already got kids. Cause like I can deal with something that's walking and talking. I can't deal with something that's crying all night, and like with you know what I'm saying? Or like there's that if you said that to me 5 years ago, I'd be like, nah, you're like, no way. I could, there's all
Yeah.
these variables, man. And you have to like, again, I'm still learning myself and I feel very good about where I'm at and things, but there's still things I can work on. And it's just when it comes to bringing somebody else into my life right now. And then, like I said, the business has a lot going on too, you know?
Well, I
So
think a lot of it is too, is like you have to be with somebody who can be deciding to make you an equal part of their life in the same way that you want to make them a part of your life, which is why I talk about proportional. One of the things that I've had in my own life ever since my dad died is a healthy sense of urgency. Like life is short. So if you don't know what you want, figure that out. I'm not going to waste time on it because I've got too much fun stuff I'm loving doing right now and I'm going to pursue it.
yeah, but I think this is also that's great. And like I said, I always think about that too. But the one thing that life has also taught me too is like I try to take in every moment of the day more than anything because I don't like it's more exciting what's coming day to day than like what I have to accomplish. Like I already know I'm already motivated to do things.
You have to learn to love the process.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I guess what I'm saying is like there's things that I am just grateful for that it's like, okay, like when you came to me about the podcast, I'm like, okay, let's go. I didn't know we were gonna even like do this.
Yeah.
Like, we were, but it just came. Okay, cool. We're here right now. We kind of had a brief conversation at the beginning of this about what we were to discuss, but think about how this thing's rolled out now.
Yeah,
You know
we've
what
riffed on God knows what. Like when I listen back to this, I'll probably laugh thinking about all the range of topics we covered.
100%. But that's the beauty of it, is like, you just, life is not a script. It's just a day-to-day, moment-to-moment process. All right. And for somebody, that's something that I'm learning to have to, like, because I've always been somebody that's tried to look ahead and play the chess move ahead and things like that. And the thing is, it's speed chess. You got to be looking at it right now. Like, there's things, there's individuals in both our lives that we both know, like, a local business person that we both know, that there's things about her that I look at, I'm like, man, I wish, and that's what I need to get better at, like, being that. Because I'm forward looking too much, and you just got to be like, and there's a strength and a weakness to that, just like there's a strength and a weakness to what she can do. And I'm like, and I sit there and assess these people, and I look at that, I'm like, okay, I need to incorporate some of that into my routine too, and that's just life too, and it's just putting it out there and just boom, 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 and just, and it's the same thing. I don't know how you were when your father died, but when my father died, I still sticks in my head because I was in the hospital with him. My mother and my little brother were there, my younger brother. And mind you, he was 30. I'm like, we're both. And I remember looking down at my father, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's done, like that. Like, it's over. He's gone.
I'll tell you what it was for me. So the day before he passed away, I found out from my mom that I needed to get on an airplane.
Yeah.
And I was outside the hot yoga spot when I found out that news. I was very overwhelmed. I went into the yoga studio, flowed. Shout out to Nora for a really good flow that
Mhm.
helped center me. And then I immediately just knew, okay, got to book the tickets.
Yeah.
Went to bed a few hours later, got up super early, barely made the plane in Albany,
Mhm.
made all the rest of my flights, got to Kaiser Permanente Hospital in Hollywood where my dad was, not responsive, just unconscious and on life support.
He was still alive though. He was on life
He was
support.
still alive.
Yeah.
He was still alive, just on life support. And I walked in the hospital room, and my mom and my sister, my godmother, my god sister are all there. Some family friends were also there. And the whole time flying on the airplane, knowing this was the last time I was going to see my dad. He
Yeah.
was going to die. And I had made it just in time. They were keeping him alive for me.
Yeah.
They were all there, but they were keeping him on life support. So at least I was the last person who could say goodbye. So they eventually, after I got there, within about an hour, we made the decision as a family to take him off life support. And then it was just over the next, my dad's credit, he fought like hell. His
Yeah.
heart kept going for about 9 or 10 more hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just different people, myself mainly, holding his hand, praying. Growing up Episcopalian, he had a Book of Common Prayer, and he jokingly referred to the prayer for the departed as the Bon Voyage prayer, and he had some notes in it.
Yeah.
So we read that to him. We sang songs to him. But I think for me, everything I do, at least in my journey, in part is knowing how much of his life, unfortunately, was limited by not being able to have freedom in his life to do the things he wanted to do because of, in large part, being heavier than he always wanted to be.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, there's always this urgency about people to figure it out, because eventually, like, we're all going to die, and I'm not scared by that. To me, it's just a reflection of how life is.
Are you not scared about it now because you faced it though?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen it. Like, to see my father and to hold his hand and to see him die in front of me.
Yeah.
It really just reinforces that all these trivial things that people obsess over and worry about are so meaningless compared to how fragile life is, how precious life is, and how every single moment is a gift. And so, in my mind at least, don't be afraid to be obsessive. Don't be afraid to be relentless about your dreams. Open that small business you want to do, because what the hell are you waiting on?
And that's where, again, people have to go through life experiences to understand, to wake up to that at times.
And to your own father, the way that I know you're a different man because of him no longer being with you, in the same way I know I'm fundamentally a different man without my own father.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing I can say on my, so this is where like, to my, when I like look at my father's passing, and when I you knew it was kind of coming. Okay.
I knew it was coming for a while, but the speed and the lack of an ability to really say goodbye in the way I really wanted
So
to.
let me run this scenario by you. My last two conversations with my father literally were an argument, and me rushing to get him off the phone was my last conversation with my father. All right. And this is something that I can reflect on now with my mother, because my mother's still alive. And when my dad died, it wasn't in the situation of yourself where you kind of knew it was coming. You had some time to kind of like, he was still alive. It just went like that. All right. So literally my last conversation, because it's still, I couldn't eat tomatoes and mushrooms for months. All right. Because my dad was old school Guinea. So it was around the time, it was in the fall when he passed. And he used to love going wild mushroom picking. And, he loved like tomato jarring and stuff. And I remember he called me and he was like just trying to talk. This is after we had our argument though. So he was like just trying to talk to me. He's like, "Did you get out and get any tomatoes yet? Did you go out for any mushrooms?" And I'm like, "Dad, listen, I gotta go." It was me rushing to get off the phone with my dad. All right. I took that for granted. A lot of things. All right. So that kind of haunted me for a little while. All right. On a lot of things. And then there was things about my dad that always kind of haunted me anyways, just because of like, I saw what he did business wise and where he could have been. And then and then, his breakup with my mother and this and that. And that's probably even some of the relationship stuff too. When we talk about relationships, is why I approach things in a certain way. So it's been a real reflection time in my life. And then also just, like I said, when he went, it was just done. It was over. And you look at that, and like when you don't have time to even remotely, like it was just like, boom, we showed up at the hospital and we thought, because he had so many close calls, that we thought he was good. And it was like no big deal. And it was just boom, it was over. And there's no reset button. All right. And so with that being said, and how now we'll get into like relationships and things post that, I literally, up until recently, I was calling my mother every single night after work for years. Just every single day, Mom, just calling, because I did not want it to be like where I had that kind of conversation. I didn't want that to end up being my mother. And then you look at, there's probably been some stuff in my personal life now that I've learned that like it's with love too, or anything. It's like Alan Watts has this whole quote about, I don't know if you know who Alan Watts is, but he has this whole thing about, he goes into like letting things go. But like, and what it comes down to is like, you have to learn to let things go, to appreciate it too. It's like my mother, like I can call her every day, but eventually it's going to get to the point where I'm not going to appreciate talking to her anymore. Even though I'm talking to her, I'm kind of going through the motion of it, and it doesn't mean anything. It's like love. All right. Like I can sit there and be like, I want you next to me every single second of the day. But if I don't have that separation from that person, then am I like, it's, you don't appreciate that love sense of it. Like you're not. So it's like, it's taught me a lot to let certain things go. And even though that's not easy, like I'm not sitting here being like, yo, that shit's easy, because it's definitely not. All right. But it taught me a lot to appreciate, to like understand that like life is now and we're in it, and I don't know when it's going to end. I could walk outside, you and I could wake up tomorrow. I could wake up tomorrow morning. I could not wake up tomorrow morning. This could be the last real conversation that I had with somebody. I don't know. I have no clue. Do I want that to happen? No, because I want to wake up and have my pot of coffee. But like this could be it. I don't know. I have no clue, man. And yeah, you have to develop a level of, like you're saying, take the risk and everything, but that requires learning things about yourself and learning these things. And you have to go, and you're on that path right now yourself, man. You're doing it. Like I already know where you're at because I've been there. All right. And it's too, it's like there's a lot of things that are still hitting you emotionally. And it's going to be like that for at least another year or two. I can promise you that. But once it's all said and done, you're going to look back on it and you're going to be like, damn, like, all right, that made me, now I can really, really appreciate life. Am I just doing this because I think I have to, or am I doing it because I really want to, or like, or this or that, you know what I'm saying? That's what it comes down to. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it taught me a lot about letting things go. Like I said, like I had to stop calling my mom every night because it was like, I knew it was getting to the point where I loved talking to her, but it didn't mean anything anymore because I was doing it too much.
Yeah.
You know,
to close this out, I think there's a William Blake quote that I'd drop on you. And
Yeah.
shout out to my man, Jeff Miller, who was one of my theater professors in college. And I'm going to do my best to get it right. But it's roughly this: he who clings himself to a joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise.
That's a great quote.
It's a banger.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
That's a good one.
And it's the real truth, man. We got to stay in the present. We got to stay in the moment and be able to ride all the ups and downs.
Yeah. I mean, that's what also makes things good. You know, it's those ups and downs. It's even if you're like looking at somebody, I think too, is like when we're talking relationships again, like everybody always wants to look at what that person's good at or brings to the table for somebody. You know, it's like, no, show me your flaws. Show me the scars.
Yeah.
I want to see the scars because scars are beautiful too.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
being built different's being able to talk about all this stuff. So this is by far probably the longest episode I've done, but it may be the best one.
But you already knew that it was going to go
I knew it was going to go the long.
We could keep going if you really want. You already know this, like right now. This thing could go.
You know, but by the third hour.
Oh, God, you mean by day 2?
Yeah.
like I'm going to need a shave and some coffee. So,
yeah.
But no, man. I mean, that's life it's a good ride. And like I said, I'm still learning a lot. You're still learning a lot. And it's, keep doing what you're doing. And you know what? And like I said, man, it's all going to come together, and I'm just grateful to be here with you, man.
I appreciate your insights a lot. Love our friendship. And until the next time on the Cartel Couch, the casting couch, I won't say goodbye. I'll just say, see you later.
See you soon.